Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to look at another Emory Tate game played in the year 2009 against a Norwegian player, Carl Peter Kirkebo. I've probably completely butchered that name, so I do apologise. But I was looking in the database for a brilliant Emory Tate game and this one caught my attention. So, without further ado, Emory Tate is playing with the white pieces and black is a Norwegian player. And Tate played his typical 1e4. Black now played the Sicilian with c5 and Tate played knight to c3 with black playing e6 and now white played knight to f3. Very interesting move with a6 played by black. So this is fairly standard stuff and we're getting to an open Sicilian when white now plays d4 with black taking on d4. The knight recaptured and the queen went to c7 with Tate now playing f4, grabbing some space in the centre with his f-pawn, and this could be very dangerous. White's idea is to mainly try and thrust this pawn to f5 at some point and really dominate black's position. But will black allow him to do this? We'll soon see. So black developed traditionally here with the move b5, preparing to fianchetto the bishop, which will strike out to e4. b5 also prepares the move b4, with the only piece protecting e4 is the knight. So black's position is quite harmonious in that way. So to protect e4, Tate played bishop to d3 and also develops another piece. Black played bishop to b7 and Tate played queen to f3 to develop his queen to a very dangerous square actually. So he does eye up the bishop and the bishop eyes up the queen. But the point of moving the queen here is to mainly probably castle queenside and prepare this f5 push as we discussed. Black played knight to f6. More pieces now attacking the e4 pawn, and this is where Tate played a very interesting move. And it's not very good by the engine standards, but just imagine your opponent played this against you. It's one of those moves that'll have you crumbling in your seat because it's very aggressive. He played the move g4. So after this move, I imagine black could have took a really deep breath because now white is preparing to play g5. As I say, the engine doesn't really like this move, and it's mainly because they would have played just developing move, knight to c6, and after takes an a3 to stop b4. The computer suggests now black should play h5, and after g5, you should counter-attack with this move b4, and it gets into a very complicated variation. After a takes b4, bishop takes b4, pawn takes knight, and black would have bishop takes c3, pawn takes, queen takes, and king e2, queen takes rook in this particular variation. Obviously that wouldn't have happened in the actual game, but that's just an example of why black's position is seen as slightly better. So after g4 though, it's very hard to navigate that sort of position, especially over the board with a human player. So Tate's move is actually quite good in that respect. Puts a lot of pressure on black, and black now struck out with his own flank attack and played the move b4, which attacks the knight on c3. So attacking the knight on c3 really puts some pressure on e4, forcing white to move the knight backwards. So the knight went back to e2, and black now played d5, again putting more pressure on this e4 square. So to counter the pressure, Tate played the best move. He played e5. Obviously you don't want to swap off pawns here because then the bishop just opens itself up, and now the bishop is actually blocked in by its own pawn. Makes a lot of sense. However, the e4 square is still quite weak, and for this reason black plays knight to e4. And we're not going to take that off because the bishop on d3 actually does quite a good job and will help in the attack later on. So Tate now played a very nice move, knight to g3. Strikes out e4, also prepares f5 once again. This is the move that white really wants. Black played knight to c6. A good move, develops another piece into the game. And Tate now played bishop to e3 to protect his knight on d4, also developing at the same time. So you notice very strong players also develop and also make moves that protect their own pieces at the same time. So usually developing moves do two things at once. And that's mainly the difference between strong players and weak players. So bishop c5, also again, as I just discussed, develops a piece and also attacks this knight on d4 twice. Forces white to make a move with this knight now. There was knight takes c6, queen takes c6, and take castle queenside. A very bold and brave move. Black obviously won't be able to castle on the queen side, so we're going to get a very exciting game where white will attack on the king side and black will attack on the queen side. Now black may have been able to get an initiative here if they played knight takes g3, and after queen takes g3 play this move d4. Looks very strong for black because after bishop to d2 you can play a5, and black's not yet castled, so white doesn't really want to attack straight away. Also, black is threatening to moves like queen takes rook here, where two rooks are more valuable than the queen. But this, apparently, according to the computer, is actually quite even and very double-edged, so very exciting. Okay, in the actual game, black castled kingside, and Emory Tate now decided to play bishop takes c5, and there was knight takes c5. This allows the white bishop to open up against h7, but it is also attacked by the knight on c5. So white doesn't really want to trade that off. The king went to b1 now. I think that's a good move because it gets off the file of the queen. So white's just being extra careful before they go in for the attack. Now here the engine actually suggests that black should go in for the attack with a5 here. After f5, it gets rather complicated. It's probably actually good for black though, because black can play rook to c8 after f6. There's knight takes d3, queen takes d3, and a4. And all of a sudden black's position actually looks a lot better. So this c2 pawn is under threat in this variation, so rook to d2 protects and holds on to the c2 pawn. But now black comes crashing in with b3. And if pawn takes b3, black has the nice move bishop to a6, hitting the queen, forcing the queen to move to e3, and black can now continue with a takes pawn. White really doesn't want to take that off, so he could play a3, and black should play queen to c5. And a trade of queens would actually give black the edge after rook takes c5, rook e1, rook to c4, attacking the g4 pawn. Black would actually have a better position. Usually in endgames as well, the bishop is a lot better in open positions, and also black has a nice passed d pawn. So yeah, black does have the edge here. Just going back briefly as well, white really can't play queen to g5 here and threaten mate, because there's this very nice move, bishop to d3. This is like one of those puzzle rushes that you see, bishop to d3, rook takes d3, queen to c2 check, king to a1. And the finish is this move, rook takes a3, crashing in, because if pawn takes, there's queen to a2, checkmate. So we'll go back to the actual game. We just looked at a5 if that's what black played. In the game though, black actually played a very weakening move. He played f6. And I think we can all agree that, yeah, black shouldn't really be opening up lines against his own king in this scenario. And Tate actually took full advantage. Pawn takes f6 was played, rook takes f6, and now g5 hits the rook on f6, forces it backwards, and now can you find the winning move for white in this position? Again, it's like a puzzle rush, but let's see what you can come up with. Maybe pause the video if you want to take some time. But Tate now crashed in with bishop takes h7 check, and basically forces the king to take that, because if the king goes to h8, then there's queen to h5. I know we'll play bishop to g6 next move and play queen h7 mate at some point. If the king tries to hide on f7, there's some very nice moves here with f5, opening up some lines. Black can of course ignore this and play e5, but white should now play rook to e1, get their two rooks in the centre of the board. After e4, hit the queen. There's a very nice move here, queen to h5 check, king to e7, and white has a nice finish with f6 check, takes, and now g6, where g7 is a massive threat. Also knight to f5 is a massive threat as well. Let's say knight to e6 in this scenario. There's also this amazing move, rook takes e4, just absolutely obliterating black's position, because after pawn takes, there's knight to f5 check, king e8, g7 with check. Rook has to block, white will get another queen with check, knight has to block, and queen takes f7 is checkmate. And if this actually happened on the board, black has just been blown away. So for this reason, black actually has to take the bishop. King takes, a bishop is played, and Tate follows up with the obvious move actually, queen to h5, check. King went to g8, and now it's g6. So white's threatening checkmate on h7. So the only way to avoid this is to move your rook away. So rook to e8 was played, and gives the king some sort of safety squares to go to. But after this move, rook to e1, black actually resigned the game. So why did black resign in this particular position? Well, let's say black plays a normal move, rook to d8 here. Queen to h7 will follow, king to f8. And now actually white has the beautiful move, knight to f5. Threatening checkmate on g7. And if this gets taken, queen h8 is actually checkmate. And there's actually no way to stop queen takes g7. Even if queen to c7, queen h8 is also checkmate. So this was the final position on the board. Okay, black maybe makes one mistake in this after f6, and Tate just absolutely blows black away with a brilliant timed sacrifice, and black actually had no chance to attack white's position. Obviously earlier on, black may have been able to play some nicer moves, but all in all this was actually a really beautiful game by white. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my quick analysis of this game. If you did, please do drop a like, comment and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And I hope this video helped improve your chess even just a little bit. And I'll see you in the next one.